Once again, my name is Regina. I'm one of the speech language pathologists at Progress Pediatric. I've been at this clinic for almost 3 years now, so it's been very exciting. And just a little bit of background about me is I graduated from Florida State with my undergrad and my master's degree. So go Noles. And I'm a first-time mom. So my son Dallas is 3 months old. So this has been really quite a learning experience being a new mom during a pandemic working from home. Wow. I'm sure everyone has one of those stories. Everyone has one of those experiences, right? Yeah. So this has been really fun, really new, and I am learning that things never go as planned. So I'm just kind of rolling with the punches as they come, right? So, today we're going to talk about articulation and speech development in your child. And basically, I'm looking at the age ranges of anywhere from when they're first started talking all the way to maybe like 8 years old is pretty much the age range we kind of look at when we're looking at speech and articulation. So, kind of to dive in on the difference between like what I'm talking about when I say speech. So, speech is how we make our sounds. So, it's actually a fine motor skill. So, think of it as like learning to play the piano. You know, when each finger's kind of doing something different. That's exactly what speech and articulation is. If you really slow down how you talk, so let's take the word dog. Okay, so if you say each of those sounds very slowly, you'll notice that your tongue kind of moves to the front by your teeth when you say d for dog. Your mouth opens up for ah for daw, and then your tongue kind of hits up in the back for g for so it's dog. So it's almost like a little wave. That's what we're going to talk about with speech. So that's that fine motor skills. It's really, really, we use it so much. We really don't see how, fine and detailed it is to actually talk. So, what are speech sound disorders in our children? Um, right off the bat, it's really normal for young children to, as they're learning language, to have some errors and kind of have some trouble making certain sounds the right way. After all, their speech skills develop over time, and they master certain sounds at certain ages. So that's why we say by 8, most children really know how to say all the sounds in our English language. So a speech sound disorder means a child has trouble saying certain sounds and words past that expected age that we expect them to. So this is pretty common. About 8 to 9% of children have an articulation or have a speech disorder. So, speech disorder is actually kind of broken up into two different little categories. There's articulation and there's like phonological disorders. So, an articulation disorder is actually the child's having difficulty at the phonetic and motoric level. So, they have trouble actually making the sounds, like motoric, like actually forming the sounds. While a phonological disorder is more of the phonemic, what's like in the brain. So they're having trouble with the pattern of the sounds. So, and that can kind of carry over into reading and writing skills, you'll see. Articulation, not so much, but like phonological, yes, you'll see a lot of like those reading and writing errors will happen in their writing too. So, in other words, an articulation disorder is maybe a child says, instead of saying the number 3, she says free. That's an articulation disorder, while a phonological disorder might look like it's a pattern. So like every, mostly words, they might leave out the ending. So instead of saying dog, they say daw. And they always leave off the last kind of sound at the end. So what causes the speech sound disorders in our kids? Really, we don't know. It's kind of unknown, but some speech sound errors may be caused by like an injury to the brain, maybe a developmental disability, because again, developmental, this is all fine motor developmental kind of. So you might see that. Big one is problems with hearing loss. Maybe your child has a lot of ear infections when they were little. That unfortunately does play a part. Maybe there's a physical component to it, such as like a cleft lip, cleft palate, maybe a tongue tie. Sometimes you'll see that. And maybe disorders just affecting nerves that involve speech. Now, let's dig into when should my child be able to say certain sounds. So this is the one where you as the parents are kind of being the investigators and the detectives and being the first one to notice, I think there's a problem, or I think we're a little behind on that, or they're still hard to understand. So let's kind of dig into that. So speech is a fine motor skill, like I talked about. So it does take a long time to acquire. So each child should be able to make more and more complex sounds as they get older. So I'd like to share my screen now. Not sure I know how to do that. Let's see. Because I have a really cool visual from a pediatric center in Idaho, and they did a really great job with this visual. If not, I'm going to pull it up on my iPad and just kind of like super old fashioned, just show it on my screen. Um, and it's a really neat kind of visual though I like because it breaks it down into the ages and the sounds that they make. So let me pull it up here. Oopsie, not that one. Okay. So there we go. So I don't know if you can see this here, but you'll see there's kind of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And inside each of those numbers, there's actually sounds. And that is the sound that your child at that age should have mastered. For example, let's look at age 3. So by 3, H, P, N, B, M, W. So those are the actual sounds. So they should be able to make the sound for high. They should be able to say p for pig. They should be able to say no. Maybe the B there, they should be able to say, ball. M, mama. W, wawa for water. They should be able to say those types of sounds. And they get progressively a little harder. So then we have 4 and then 5. Here we go. Let's go to 6 and 7. So you kind of see the range of the more complex sounds. So in like 6 and 7, you'll see L, V, S, Z. This ZH sound is like zh, like for measure, zh kind of sound. Not as common in English, but there's like other languages that it's very common. But TH sounds, TH like in thank you or brother, and then R. R is like the pesky one, right? We always have problems with R. But it's one of the last sounds to develop. So technically, your child has a long time to really acquire that sound for rabbit. Maybe they're saying wabbit. But if they're 4, that's actually developmentally normal. That's developmentally fine. It really doesn't become a problem until those later ages. So now, what does a speech disorder sound like? It may be hard to tell at first, but the easiest way I like to explain it to parents is kind of twofold. Is that one, are you just having a really hard time understanding anything they're saying? My rule of thumb is like by 2, you should understand about 50% of what they're saying. By 3, it should be more like 75%. By 4, it should be like 90%. So if they're 4 years old and you're hitting every other word, we might have a problem. The second kind of thing is just to kind of break it down into easy to remember ways to see if your child has a speech disorder is if they still sound kind of babyish or childish compared to their friends. I hate comparing kids, but maybe on like a speech kind of world when you're listening to the 4-year-old speak versus your 4-year-old who maybe is talking almost like babyish, then we might have a problem because again, on the sound level, they may still be doing those sounds that they should have acquired at 2 and 3, and they haven't acquired just yet. So some examples, there's a lot of signs. There's a lot of things that could be going on with a speech disorder, but for the most, let's go break down some common ones into a little bit more detail. So, leaving off the ends of a sound. So maybe, for example, they say, they say coo instead of cool. Maybe they say piter instead of spider. They kind of leaving off sounds. That's an example of one. Maybe they're adding sounds to a word, like they say palais a lot when they are going to the sator. Like they add things to it. Maybe they're distorting the sound. So instead of saying this, they say this. Very distorted, hard to understand. Swapping different sounds like wadio instead of radio. Maybe they're making it a W instead of an R. And then like one other example that's pretty common is like simplifying words that with multiple syllables. So like they say baba instead of bottle. Developmentally appropriate. That's actually fine until they're about 3, 4 years old. Maybe another one is like leaving out the weak syllable of a word. So like they say nana instead of banana. again, that's kind of actually, you know what? I got that mixed up. The baba really is like goes away a lot faster. That's more like two. I would say like 2.5. That should be gone. Saying baba instead of bottle. I got me mixed up. The weak syllable words like nana instead of banana, they have a little longer. They can kind of do that until they're about 3 or 4. So now, what can I do to help my child's speech development? So I always say listen, speak, repeat. So the first thing we have to do as parents is we really, really need to give them the chance to say what's on their mind. So listen, just sit there and kind of listen and hear them out. It's so easy for us as parents to know what our child means or know what they want before they even think about it. But that's kind of how they learn. They have to try first. So really listen. Um, and listen and see if they're what kind of errors they're making. So as you're kind of listening, be like, oh, they kind of said that weird. What word was that? What part of the word was kind of weird? Kind of be that detective. So listening. And don't rush and try to understand what they're saying. Maybe ask if you're having a hard time understanding them, ask some questions like, a dog? Are you talking about the animal that quacks or the animal that says woof? Asking questions. Then once you kind of understand what they're saying, then you can speak and say, say the word that they were trying to say. So a dog, oh, you meant a dog. Okay. So then you're repeating yourself. Dog. Okay. So now you try. So now you're going to have them repeat, and say it slowly so they can kind of work on, again, that fine motor skill, that pattern of going from the front of their mouth to the back of their mouth and saying dog instead of doc, turning their voice on, turning their voice off kind of thing. So now remember, speech sounds like certain speech or errors are developmentally normal. So, they're supposed to make those mistakes, especially if they're 2 and they just are learning how to talk. So, of course, there's going to be some problems, and that's okay. So, really, like if you have a 2 or 3-year-old who's just difficult to understand, that's when you're going to really see a problem. If they're saying wabbit instead of rabbit and he is 2 years old, you may not have a problem right now. However, if they're more like 6 or 7 and I would even venture to say 5, even though they have some time, if they're really like really leaning into saying like wabbit and it's really kind of like very, very childish compared to their friends, then there might be a problem. So again, speech is a fine motor skill. So every detail counts, and that's why it takes so long for our kids to acquire and develop certain sounds. So, all right. So I hope there's some commenters, some people, because I kind of wanted to play a little game. But even though if you guys aren't listening live, you can kind of tune in too. I want to do a little pop quiz. So, question number 1. My 3-year-old says wabbit instead of rabbit. Is it reason to be concerned or not? What do you think? Your 3-year-old is saying wabbit instead of rabbit. Should you be worried? What do you guys think? Come on, I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Comment in the comments here. Comment in the comments. Okay. Ding, ding, ding. Time is up. Don't worry about it. If that is the only sound that they are having a problem with, if your 3-year-old is saying wabbit, you're probably fine. Talk to your pediatrician, but you're probably fine. Let your pediatrician know. That way they can kind of monitor it as well. But I wouldn't be too concerned at this point. So now what if your 8-year-old is saying 1, 2, free, and they're saying bruffer? Should you be concerned? He's 8 years old. What do you guys think? Do, 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 do. Let's see. Okay, ding, 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 ding. Time is up. If your 8-year-old is still having trouble with the TH sounds, like they say bruffer, 1, 2, free, we may have a problem. So you definitely come in for that. Again, you don't want those errors that are happening to translate over into school. That's like the big thing. So if they're hearing the word bruffer and saying it like that, they may be spelling it that way. So then it's translating into their schoolwork. They're getting points taken off because of their spelling. So yeah, that's a problem. So come on in and we can kind of evaluate and see what's going on. All right, what about this one? I can only understand about half of what my 4-year-old is saying to me. Is that reason to be concerned or not? What do you think? 4 years old, you only understand about half. Reason to be concerned or not? Yes, so it's a reason to be concerned. So again, 4 years old, you should understand about 90% of what they're saying. So if you have a 4-year-old and you're catching every other word, it might be a reason to be concerned. So great job. You guys are now speech pros. Now I can say that, I keep saying that like speech, I keep referring it to speech, but I also want to kind of reiterate that like there's a difference in our speech language pathology world. We look at speech differently from language. It's different in our world. It may sound kind of the same thing to you guys, but it's actually different. So when I say speech, I'm talking about sounds, and when I talk about language, I'm talking about like actually communication. So I also wanted to kind of show this visual that in case you guys are concerned of like, oh wait, maybe I'm more worried about like the language, just to kind of like so you guys can see the difference. Here's another cool little visual I have. This one came from, oh, I didn't write it down. There's a lot of cool like speech sites out there, but this one is a pretty cool one. This visual I like a lot, and it's developmental milestones, and it's a lot broader. Basically, these are language milestones. So this is why it's different from when we keep talking about speech. So language, so like language. So by 3 months, they should be cooing and kind of gurgling. By 12 months, maybe a little after, a little before, you may be seeing their first words, mama, papa, dada, that kind of thing. Those are languages, right? We're talking about the language here. By 4 years old, we should be seeing lots and lots of words. They're using 5 or more words in sentences, big time stuff. Maybe by 2, if we go back a little bit, maybe it's more like 2 and 3 words. So that's the language one, right? So we're talking about speech. We're talking about articulation. So, but let's see. So thanks, Teresa. I just got that. I am on Google Chrome, which is why I can't see the comments there. That's okay. so, so now you guys understand the differences between speech and language. So today we're kind of talking about that speech, sounds, articulation, that kind of level, that fine motor level. All right, so just to kind of wrap up. So now, what if you think your child is showing signs of a speech disorder? What do you do now? So the first thing you guys always have to do, I'm going to kind of go up on our Facebook here on my phone so I can kind of see any comments, because I do want to take questions at the end. So some things that you can do if you're worried about a speech sound disorder, or maybe you're just kind of preparing for it. I know I am. I have family history of speech disorders in my family too. So I have a 3-month-old. So I'm constantly, in communication with my pediatrician saying, hey, just so you know, this runs in the family. I want to keep an eye on this. So the first thing you need to do is go talk to your pediatrician about it. They're going to be the very first people that will let you know that, hey, we're going to write a script so that you can get services. Most of the time. Sometimes we got like those gun-ho parents who are like, nope, I know there's something up. I'm going straight to the source. So, but yes, go to your pediatrician first and just say, hey, I'm a little concerned. Can you write me a script for speech therapy just to get an evaluation? So that's what will happen first. Once we receive the script, that's when we do an evaluation, and we will determine based on their age, based on the sounds that they should be making, whether or not we have a speech disorder on our hands or not. Okay, and then I always want to say the next step is always to give yourself a huge pat on the back, the biggest parent award you can, because I always commend the parents who are like, they start early. Start early because some of our kids only need, a little bit of help for like 6 months, maybe a year. Some of those kids are like that. So the earlier you start, you're likely looking at like a really, really strong foundation. So, and that goes across all our therapies, all across the board. You'll hear from anybody, any of the therapists, they'll say the earlier you come in and you feel like there's a problem, the better, because it just gives them that more time to establish the right skills and gives them less time to keep making the same kind of mistakes. It's a lot harder for an 8-year-old to fix their TH problems than it is maybe like, or like V problems than it is the 4-year-old who came in and was like, yeah, I have problems with my T's. There's just less time that they're making those kind of mistakes. So give yourself a pat on the back if you're like coming in early when you notice a problem. That's awesome. So, and then the last thing too is we're a really good resource for this is reach out. There's lots of services and resources in our community. The therapists at Progressive Pediatric, we are really good at knowing what's out there and kind of knowing what you need help with. So really voice that. Really tell your therapist like, hey, are there any like special needs sports teams I can join? Are there any, book clubs? Do you know of anything like that? It's out there. It's definitely out there. So talk to us. We'll be able to help you. We're really good here about kind of staying up to date with what's kind of going on and what's out there. So I've been talking a lot, but let's see if there's any comments. I want to kind of keep this time to do any kind of question and answer. If you guys have any, I'm going to go ahead and pause it here and kind of look at the comments, but let me go back here. So Kimmy said, my baby constantly makes sounds when I talk to her. Is she trying to mimic speech? Yes. So that 3-month kind of window there is when we first start to see first signs of language and speech kind of developing, and it's that babbling, and that's exactly it. You'll start to notice that maybe when they're excited or they see someone or they start to recognize your voice, they may start kind of blah, 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 like babbling a lot, and they might start moving their hands and their legs. That's exactly early signs of speech and language development. So yeah, they're trying to kind of they're just starting to build the foundation of, oh, someone's here, I'm going to talk, I'm excited, I'm going to say something about it. So yeah. All right, Teresa said, my 2-year-old's favorite saying right now is, can I have Baba, mommy? So developmentally normal. That's totally fine. Maybe by 2.5, before maybe 3 years old, they kind of start using a little bit more like the bottle or specific language. But again, like you guys are the parents, you kind of know your child best. If it's one word and they are sticking to Baba is the bottle that I get at home, but they know in a picture, they say, yeah, the baby's drinking a bottle. That's okay. We're kind of looking at it more on a global standpoint. So if your child is referring to every bottle they ever come across in pictures or books or movies, they are saying Baba, yeah, maybe start kind of encouraging them to use the word bottle. Okay, let's see. Oh, I know. Oh, can I add the age visual? So you know what I'll do, since I didn't realize on Google Chrome I can't like or I'm having, or not me, it's probably me, I can't share it on my screen for some reason today. What we can do is I'll post it on our Progressive Pediatric Therapy site. As something that way you guys can look for it, refer back to it, save it. It's a cool visual. I have it too. I post it in my room and I actually keep it on my phone because I'm speech crazy. So yeah, so we can kind of post it just so you guys know. Oh yeah, and then even said we can share the visuals. So perfect. So if there are not any more questions, that wraps up today's Lunch and Learn. I hope you guys took something out of this. I hope you learned something. Again, if you guys have any questions, those of you watching not live, just kind of referring back to it, still feel free to comment below. We're always kind of responding and staying active on it, so we'll still answer your questions even if it's not live. All right, everybody, stay safe. Looking forward to having everything be safe and open up again. We miss our kids so much. So looking forward to it, and have a great day, guys.